Background, when we started, we said this was the first surah that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, the first one that he recited in a public setting in its entirety. They actually let him finish. And at the end of the surah, there's a sajda, as we'll see. And what happened is when he's up, he's in a marketplace, he's reciting the surah to a crowd of mostly non-Muslims. They're so mesmerized by it that they can't help but let him finish the surah. And when he gets to the end, and there's the ayah of sajda, everybody in the marketplace makes sajda. Every single person, whether they're Muslim or they're not Muslim. And then to the point where a rumor spread that everybody in Mecca had become Muslim, and obviously that was not the case. But what we're going to see today is how this surah is slowly building up to that, to the point where people were so mesmerized by it that they couldn't help, even if they weren't Muslim, but to make sajda when that sajda came. So we're really getting into the ayat that are at the heart of this surah. If you're new, if you haven't joined us before, inshallah, you can scan this QR code to get in the WhatsApp group, and then we put up the recordings and we also put up the PowerPoints at the end, inshallah. So this is where we are. So this is Surah Al-Najm. We covered this a couple of weeks ago. Ayahs 1 through 18. So first, the surah establishes the authenticity of the Prophet ﷺ. Then it talks about divine revelation. And when all that is established, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts talking about the flaws in their own belief system. And then we saw that last week, we kind of went into that. This week we're going to be more here. The fate of those who turn away from the truth. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already established what the truth is and what it's not. So what awaits those that follow the truth and what awaits those that don't follow. This is where the surah is getting into this week, inshallah. Before we continue, just a quick review of last week. These are the ayat we did last week. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said from the week before, فَلِلَّهِ الْآخِرَةُ وَالْأُولَى, that to Allah belongs the akhirah and the first life, which is here. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَكَمْ مِن مَلَكٍ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ لَا تُغْنِي شَفَاعَتُهُمْ شَيْئًا. How numerous are the angels in the skies, but with all their numbers, their shafa'ah, their intercession would not benefit at all. إِلَّا مِن بَعْدِ أَن يَأْذَنَ اللَّهُ لِمَن يَشَاءُ وَيَرْضَى, except after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives permission for that shafa'ah. And we spoke about how the point of saying that is, how can these idols give any kind of intercession when the angels themselves can't even do that? So it's a continuation of kind of pointing out the flaws in their belief system. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْآخِرَةِ, indeed those that don't believe in the akhirah, la yusammuna al-malaikata tasmiyat al-untha, they give the angels female names. And we spoke about how this also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is wrapping up an argument that was from, I believe, 3 weeks ago now, where he points out the flaws in their logic and how that same logic leads them to not believe in the akhirah, when that logic also leads them to do these very nonsensical things. And then he wraps up this discussion, وَمَا لَهُمْ بِهِ مِنْ عِلْمٍ, they don't have any knowledge about this. إِن يَتَّبِعُونَ إِلَّا الظَّنَّ, they're only following assumption, they're only following guesswork. And then the conclusion is, وَإِنَّ الظَّنَّ لَا يُغْنِي مِنَ الْحَقِّ شَيْئًا, and when it comes to the truth, there is no room for guesswork and assumptions to have any weight against that. And we also mentioned last week that this al-haqq, one of the opinions as this can also be a name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that instead of truth it means وَإِنَّ الظَّنَّ لَا يُغْنِي أي مِنَ اللَّهِ شَيْئًا, that when it comes to guesswork, there is no guesswork with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's definite, it's something that can't be refuted. So today we continue with this, inshallah. فَأَعْرِضْ عَمَّنْ تَوَلَّ عَنْ ذِكْرِنَا. So let's continue. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, after saying that, فَإِنَّ الظَّنَّ لَا يُغْنِي مِنَ الْحَقِّ شَيْئًا, that guesswork will not benefit at all against the truth. فَأَعْرِضْ عَمَّنْ تَوَلَّى عَنْ ذِكْرِنَا وَلَمْ يُرِدْ إِلَّا الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا. So turn away. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now is speaking to the Prophet, right? But of course, as an extension, is speaking to all of us. And I want all of us to kind of remember the scene where this is going on, that this is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is still up reciting this to the crowd, right? And by now he's already recited a page, and these people are listening to this man that they know that he doesn't do poetry, they know he doesn't read, they know he doesn't write, but they're seeing him say these words. And now he's saying this, فَأَعْرِضْ عَمَّنْ تَوَلَّى عَنْ ذِكْرِنَا. So turn away from whoever turns away from our advice. وَلَمْ يُرِدْ إِلَّا الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا, and they seek nothing but the pleasure of this worldly life. So let's go into this a little bit. So first of all, the Arabic that we do every week. So فَأَعْرِضْ, if you've been following along, you probably realize this is actually two things. So it's fa and then a'rid. Fa, we already know what it means. So, exactly. So fa means so. A'rid is a command, it means to turn away. So the whole thing means so turn away. An means from, exactly, so turn away from. Man, we did, means whoever. So turn away from whoever. Tawalla, we didn't do yet, but it means to turn away. One thing to notice that we're going to talk about, a'rid, we said, means turn away. Tawalla is translated as the same turn away. But of course that can't be, right? Because they're different words. So we're going to go into that a little bit. So فَأَعْرِضْ عَمَّنْ تَوَلَّى. What do they turn away from? An, again, from dhikrina. So this is again a combination of two, right? So it's dhikr, and then the na is an attachment. So this means our remembrance, right? So dhikr means remembrance, and then when you add the na to it, it becomes our remembrance. For example, رَبَّنَا ظَلَمْنَا أَنفُسَنَا, right? Oh our Lord, we have wronged ourselves. The na means make something our. Walam. So again, waw and lam. Waw we know means and from before. Lam we didn't do yet. It's another negator, but it's a negator in the past tense. So and did not. So turn away from whoever turns away from our remembrance. And he did not. Yurid means to want. He didn't want except. Illa means except. Al-hayata is life, as we've done before. And ad-dunya. Dunya is, of course, means the dunya, but it quite literally means lowly. We did the ayah, فَكَانَ قَابَ قَوْسَيْنِ أَوْ أَدْنَى. Right? He was 2 bows lengths or even lower than that. So dunya, the very root of it is lowly. This life is lowly compared to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if He accepts us compared to what's waiting for us, this life is the lowly life, ad-dunya. So فَأَعْرِضْ عَمَّنْ تَوَلَّى عَنْ ذِكْرِنَا وَلَمْ يُرِدْ إِلَّا الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. So the first part of it is turn away from him. فَأَعْرِضْ عَمَّنْ تَوَلَّى عَنْ ذِكْرِنَا. So for whoever's turning away from you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling the Prophet that whoever is turning away from this dhikr, turn away from him. But this is a very easy ayah to look at, and it is our nature. So does this ayah mean we look at everybody around us, oh these kuffar, they turn away from Allah, we don't have to concern ourselves with them? But the Prophet ﷺ's life was literally the opposite. His nature was concern for all of humanity, right? His whole life, he cried for all of humanity to be guided to this. To the point where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala needed to send ayat like this to convince him that you did enough. Now it's time to turn away. So it's actually quite the opposite. In other places in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَجَادِلْهُمْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. Talk to them in the best way. Argue with them in the best way. And there's many other places in the Quran, but at certain times, the Prophet ﷺ was so concerned, and he had such a big heart, that he needed to be told by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that it's time to let go. In another place in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells him that even if you make istighfar 70 times for them, then we won't forgive them, as concerning the munafiq, the people that were hurting him. And then what was his response? Then maybe if I make it 71 times, then they will be forgiven. That was his concern for people who actually wanted to hurt him, people that wanted to kill him. That was his concern. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling him that you've done your job. The job that we gave you, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you've done it. So فَأَعْرِضْ عَمَّنْ تَوَلَّى. This time, now leave it. Leave it and let us deal with it. What we do is, unfortunately, a lot of us, I'm not going to say all of us, but a lot of us are usually the opposite. The Prophet's default, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was concern for humanity, and he needed to be convinced to let go. Right? His default was he had hope for everyone. No matter how bad you were, he had hope for you. And he needed to be convinced, فَأَعْرِضْ عَنْ مَنْ تَوَلَّى. Our default, unfortunately, often, is we don't have hope in anybody. Right? To the extent, forget even non-Muslims, even Muslims. Somebody doesn't pray in our family, oh, forget that guy, he's a lost cause. We're so quick to write people off. So our default is giving up on people, and we need convincing to do the opposite. But the Prophet ﷺ, his default was never giving up on people, and he needed convincing to actually realize that it's enough. That was his default, ﷺ. So where are we in relation to this? So let's focus on this word فَأَعْرِضْ عَمَّنْ تَوَلَّى, right? One of the tafasir that we go through, Fakhruddin al-Razi, he was actually somebody, I believe he was a physician as well, or at the very least he had a very strong interest in medicine. Fakhruddin al-Razi, he wrote Mafatih al-Ghaib, which is one of the tafsir that I reference a lot for this class. And he said that to really understand what's being said here, he compares the whole process that the Prophet ﷺ was given for this da'wah. And he calls in his tafsir, he says the Prophet ﷺ was tabibul qalb. He was a cardiologist, right? He was a doctor of hearts, he calls him, right? And then he says, how does this work? He says, so first when somebody has a sickness, the first thing the Prophet ﷺ was told to do was to give a reminder. That was the very first step. قُولُوا لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. For certain people, like Abu Bakr, radiallahu anh, that was enough. He heard that from the Prophet and that was enough. He came over, right? Khadija, radiallahu anha, that was enough. Just a reminder was enough. So Imam al-Razi said that this is like when you go to the doctor and what's the first thing they do? Lifestyle change, right? Change your diet, do some more exercising, and then come back. For some people, that's enough, right? Second step was, أَوَلَمْ يَتَفَكَّرُوا قُلِ انظُرُوا أَفَلَا يَنظُرُونَ. Do they not reflect? Do they not see? Start establishing evidence. Look at the skies, look at the stars that we spoke about in this very surah. So for some people, the reminder isn't enough. They need a little bit more. And that's okay. Some people need more, okay? So he says this is like when you go back and lifestyle changes weren't enough, and then now you get a prescription. You get a pill or something like that. It's still conservative, right? And for some people, that's not enough. And then comes the warnings about punishment. And then he's told, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, warn them about Jahannam, warn them about what's going to happen if they don't follow this. And Fakhruddin al-Razi says this is like the more aggressive care. The pill didn't work, the lifestyle changes didn't work, and now you're getting more aggressive, you're thinking about surgery, right? And then finally, after all that is done, فَأَعْرِضْ عَمَّنْ تَوَلَّى عَنْ ذِكْرِنَا. Then you turn away. So now you turn away because they've proven themselves to be such a negative influence that you don't want them influencing others. So he says this is like if you have a limb that's infected and you've tried everything to save the limb, but now you don't want that sickness to spread to the rest of the body, so you cut it off. So this is fa'arid. A lot of the times if we're looking at this and we're saying that, oh, my coworker, he, tawalla an dhikrina, he's not Muslim, he doesn't care about this, I'm going to turn away from him because this is what that ayah says. Absolutely not. Did we do all this? Did we remind? Did we go through this whole prescription? Because this is the very end. If you're with us from the beginning, this surah actually goes through this entire process. First, it was a reminder, right? مَا ضَلَّ صَاحِبُكُمْ وَمَا غَوَى وَالنَّجْمِ إِذَا هَوَى. And then establish the evidence. أَفَرَأَيْتُمُ اللَّاتَ وَالْعُزَّى, right? And then it warns about punishment. فَلِلَّهِ الْآخِرَةُ وَالْأُولَى. After all that, now we're in like the second page, and now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَأَعْرِضْ عَمَّنْ تَوَلَّى عَنْ ذِكْرِنَا. Okay. Who are you turning away from? It's not a blanket command to the Prophet ﷺ to turn away from everybody. It's specifically عَمَّنْ تَوَلَّى عَنْ ذِكْرِنَا. Turn away from him who's turning away from this. So if someone is turning away from this, then you're turning away from him, not everybody. So this is saying turn away from them, that person who's not even listening to you, that person that isn't even giving you the time of day. He doesn't care about what you have to say. Turn away from him. And this is what I alluded to before. فَأَعْرِضْ أَنْ تَوَلَّى. أَعْرَضَ أَنْ تَوَلَّى. In English, we're translating both as turn away. And in most translations, if not all, you will see them translated the same way. But obviously, it's the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There has to be something here. Why does he use two different words? So a'rada in Arabic, it's used when you turn your face away from something, right? I'm talking to you, and I turn my face away from you, so I'm not looking at you. My body still may be towards you, but I'm just turning my face away, okay? So that's a'rada. That's what the Prophet ﷺ, that's the word used when commanding the Prophet ﷺ. Tawalla is when someone turns away completely. Okay, so one is turning your face, one is turning away completely. In another place in the Quran, this word is used to describe people that are fleeing from battle. So they're turning around and running away. That's tawalla, right? A'rid is you're just turning your face. So tawalla is somebody that completely turned away. They're not even listening to you anymore. And it also carries that connotation that they're doing this out of arrogance. I'm too good for this. I'm too good to be even looking at you. I'm too good to be even listening to what you have to say. It's somebody that doesn't have that excuse that I never got the message. Because you're in their face talking to them. Not only did they turn their face away, they turned their whole body away. They're pretending like you don't exist. So if you look at this, what seems more extreme? A'rid or tawalla? What do you think? Tawalla, right? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying is the person that does tawalla, that turns away from you completely, fa'arid, turn your face away. You still have that, still treat them like a human being, right? Don't do the same to them that they did to you. You have your dignity, fa'arid anhum, you turn away your face, but still it's not to what they're doing. sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's still preserving his character, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. An dhikrina, what are they turning away from? Our remembrance. So what is this? Quran, right? That's the majority of the tafasir say this is the Quran. So the same book, if we remember the beginning of the surah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is describing in detail how it's brought down, how Jibreel alayhi salam brings it down, that same book. If they're turning away from this, then turn away from them. Iman, faith. So we spoke about that in the beginning of the surah as well. All these things were established first in the beginning of the surah, that all these things are, there's no doubt about any of it. And now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying is after all this, if they're still turning away and giving you their back and they're not interested in any of this, فَأَعْرِضْ عَمَّنْ تَوَلَّى, turn your face away from them, right? And then the end of the ayah, وَلَمْ يُرِدْ إِلَّا الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا. They turn away and they don't want anything but this worldly life. That's all they're looking for. And this is kind of a warning for us as well, right? Because the fact that they're turning away is a sign that they don't really believe in the hereafter, even if they said they do. They don't recognize any of Allah's favors. They don't recognize the blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them. And ingratitude, as we spoke about a couple of weeks ago, that's one of the easiest ways to lose sight of the big picture. If you're not cognizant of all the favors Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to you, you're going to forget who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. If you don't know who Allah is, you don't know who the Prophet is, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And if you don't want anything but this life, then we can sit here all day going through the Quran. It's not going to benefit you. If you come out saying that your only goal is to accomplish all you can in this life and nothing else, then this reminder will not benefit you. So فَأَعْرِضْ عَمَّنْ تَوَلَّى, turn away from them because they're not benefiting from it anyway. In the very beginning of the Quran, ألف لام ميم ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ, a guidance for those with taqwa. But if there's somebody there that doesn't think that there's anything in this for them because they don't believe that they will be accountable for anything, then they're not going to find anything here. That humility needs to be there. So the way one of the tafasir wrapped this up, to kind of make it relevant to us, that if we claim at all to believe in the hereafter, if we claim that, at least some of our deeds have to show that. Some of our deeds have to show that we actually want it, right? If we say all the time, I believe in the akhirah, I believe in all this, but our deeds aren't really going towards that. If you can't tell that by the way we act with people, the way we are in our personal lives, then maybe we're falling into this. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. That if our deeds don't show that we want the akhirah, then what's separating us from وَلَمْ يُرِدْ إِلَّا الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا. So in our behaviors, in our lifestyles, we have to make sure that we don't fall into this. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, very powerful ayah, ذَلِكَ مَبْلَغُهُم مِّنَ الْعِلْمِ. This is the extent of their knowledge, right? This is all they know. So very quickly, the Arabic, ذَلِكَ, I just said ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ, ذَلِكَ means that. مَبْلَغُهُم is a combination of two, so مَبْلَغ and then hum. So مَبْلَغ, that means their limit, their extent, right? Min means from, as we did before, and al-ilm is of course knowledge. So ذَلِكَ مَبْلَغُهُم مِّنَ الْعِلْمِ, that is the limit of their knowledge. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is wrapping up everything that we did so far. So these people, from the specific, أَفَرَأَيْتُمُ اللَّاتَ وَالْعُزَّى, these idols, right? لَيُسَمُّونَ الْمَلَائِكَةَ تَسْمِيَةَ الْأُنْثَى, they give the angels these names and then they worship them. Those specific examples, but also broader things that even apply to us to this day. مَنْ تَوَلَّى عَنْ ذِكْرِنَا, the ones that turn away from our remembrance. All of this is encompassing. Why is this happening? Why do these people act like this? Why are they so stubborn in their system? ذَلِكَ مَبْلَغُهُم مِّنَ الْعِلْمِ, because that is the extent of their knowledge. That's all there is to it. They can't see past this life, right? And this is something that exists to this day. Some of the most successful people in the world, the reason they are so successful might be this, because they don't see anything past this life, right? So preferring this dunya over the akhirah is essentially a limitation of knowledge. If you can't see past this life, then you're never not going to care about any of this. And when we come across these ayat, it's, what does my life look like? Does my life look like that this is the extent of my knowledge? Does my life look like I think I'm going to go anywhere after this? Because if I design my life where it looks like I'm going to be here forever and that's what I think, then maybe I should start thinking, does this I actually apply to me? Right? Where do we fall in the spectrum. And one of the ways to also think about is, we put in so much when it comes to the dunya. We go to school for decades, right? I went to school for decades to have a good life here. We put in so much for our trade, for our whatever it is, for our children's education. But when it comes to religion and akhirah, إِن يَتَّبِعُونَ إِلَّا الظَّنَّ, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said last week, right? That they just follow their assumption. We're okay with keeping religion as something that we're never certain about because, oh, my dad told me this, my mom told me this. It remains assumption. Even if we're born Muslim, we keep it as an assumption. We never learn it for ourselves. But when it comes to the dunya, many of us, we go as far as we can. But then are we part of this? ذَلِكَ مَبْلَغُهُم مِّنَ الْعِلْمِ. Is our ilm, is our limit of our knowledge just ending at this dunya? Is it just ending with my MD? Is it just ending with my MBA? Do I have anything beyond that? It's a very serious question to ask ourselves. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. How much do we know? How much do we invest for each of those things, right? So this phrase, ذَلِكَ مَبْلَغُهُ مِنَ الْعِلْمِ, it's called, a bit technical here, but inshallah it will be clear for everyone. It's called mu'tarid. So in English it's called a parenthetical statement. So this is actually how it looks in English, if you spell the whole thing out. If in Arabic, in modern Arabic there's parentheses, but of course in classical Arabic and in speech there's no parentheses, but this is kind of the function it serves. So this is what it would look like. So turn away, فَأَعْرِضْ عَمَّنْ تَوَلَّى عَنْ ذِكْرِنَا, and seeks nothing but the worldly life. This statement would actually be in parentheses. This is the extent of their knowledge. And then the next line is, surely your Lord knows best. بِمَنْ ضَلَّ عَنْ سَبِيلِهِ وَمَنِ اهْتَدَى. We'll cover that shortly. But the entire sentence is actually this part, and this is almost like a side point that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. So He's talking about them, and this is part of like the literary miracle of the Quran. And again, the Quran, this is easy to appreciate when we're looking at it written down, but remember the Prophet ﷺ is speaking this. He's speaking this to people that are just staring at him, and they're just waiting for him to make a mistake. They're waiting for him to slip up so they can be like, oh, we got you, this is wrong. But this is the level of speech that he has for somebody that can't read and write. So the main thing is this: they seek nothing but this worldly life, and then Allah knows about them. But the reason that they seek nothing in this worldly life is ذَلِكَ مَبْلَغُهُم مِّنَ الْعِلْمِ. That is the extent that it goes. And the final thing is, sometimes we may look at what's going on, we may see people doing just bizarre things, right? And we come up with conspiracy theories, we come up with so many things as to why people act the way they do, especially in the world today. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to a certain extent here, is saying that sometimes there's nothing deeper. There's not some crazy conspiracy theory, there's nothing that, it's just ذَلِكَ مَبْلَغُهُم مِّنَ الْعِلْمِ. This is as far as they know. They don't know anything else, they don't know any better, they don't know anything past this dunya, so this is why they act this way. Don't stop looking for anything deeper, because it's not there. Focus on yourself. Next ayah, إِنَّ رَبَّكَ هُوَ أَعْلَمُ بِمَنْ ضَلَّ عَنْ سَبِيلِهِ وَهُوَ أَعْلَمُ بِمَنِ اهْتَدَى. So this is after the parentheses, this is what comes up, right? So surely your Lord knows best who has strayed from his way and who is rightly guided. So inna rabbaka, inna, we said, was emphasis. Rabbaka, by now we know it's two, it's Rabba, and then the suffix, it means your Lord. Huwa means he, right? A'lamu means more knowledgeable, we'll talk about that a little bit. Biman is again, be plus man, so with or about whoever. Dalla, we did before, مَا ضَلَّ صَاحِبُكُمْ وَمَا غَوَى, right, is lost. An means from, sabilihi, it's a combination of two things, so sabil and he, so it means his path, right? Something to appreciate here, if you've been with us since the beginning, if you come across this ayah, there's only one new word in the entire thing, it's sabil. So, if you just learn the words from one page of the Quran, you get to this ayah, and you essentially know every single word except the last one, subhanAllah. So hopefully that's really the point of doing this. It's not so that you can go home and memorize, and I mean you can do that of course if you want, but also to kind of demonstrate that it really doesn't take that much. It's just a little bit of effort, and you'll start, these things will start kind of clicking in your head as well, inshallah. وَهُوَ, and he, أَعْلَمُ بِمَنِ اهْتَدَى, and he's also well aware of who is guided. So surely your Lord knows best who has strayed, بِمَنْ ضَلَّ عَنْ سَبِيلِهِ وَهُوَ أَعْلَمُ بِمَنِ اهْتَدَى, and he knows best who is rightly guided. So this is consolation again for the Prophet ﷺ, because he's hearing this, and this is somebody ﷺ that has spent years giving da'wah to these people. and has had very little to show for it except them rejecting him, them torturing the weaker of his followers, and them just not giving him anything back at all, right? And now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, turn away, right? فَأَعْرِضْ عَمَّنْ تَوَلَّى عَنْ ذِكْرِنَا. And now he's saying, إِنَّ رَبَّكَ هُوَ أَعْلَمُ, that your Lord knows best. So if the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is thinking, as he did, because that was him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he's thinking, did I do something wrong, right? Was there some deficiency on my part where I couldn't express this well enough so that they would accept it? This is consolation for him, that no, it's not a deficiency on your part. If he's thinking, maybe I could have done more. All this stuff I endured, was it for nothing? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying is no. Your effort is there, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but at the end of the day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who's in control. إِنَّ رَبَّكَ هُوَ أَعْلَمُ بِمَنْ ضَلَّ عَنْ سَبِيلِهِ. None of this is a reflection of his effort, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows who's going to be guided and who won't. So whenever, for all of us, for anything really, we put in the effort for anything. But at the end of the day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that knows the ending. إِنَّ رَبَّكَ هُوَ أَعْلَمُ. He knows better what the ending will be. And He will make the best ending happen for us. Right? And he's saying this to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So what about us in whatever little thing that we do? We have to accept that we put in the effort, we put in our work, but at the end of the day, inna rabbaka huwa a'lam. Indeed, your Lord knows much better. A'lam actually is a comparative. It means more knowledgeable. So if you guys think about in the salah, we say Allahu Akbar. It means God. Technically, it actually means God is greater, right? But whenever we use a comparative, it means it begs the question. More knowledgeable than what? More greater than what? As a side point, in the salah, some of the shuyukh say that when you say Allahu Akbar in salah, it's because you're saying He's greater than anything that's distracting you from the salah. So you keep saying over and over, okay, time for ruku, Allahu Akbar. Whatever I was thinking of, Allah is Akbar. He's bigger than that. Now let me continue. And then maybe you lose focus when you're going into sajda. Again, Allahu Akbar, Allah is greater. But anyway, that's a side point. So here is A'lam. Who is He more knowledgeable than? This is left open. So then who? Then the Prophet ﷺ, that's the immediate one, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking to the Prophet that don't be so distressed, don't be so sad that I'm asking you to turn away, because at the end of the day Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows who will be guided and who won't. So first of all, talking to the Prophet, I know more, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying to the Prophet, and anyone that knows anything. So the benefit of keeping this open-ended is you can fill it in with anything, similar to Allahu Akbar, and the statement will be correct. Then anyone that knows anything, Allah, inna rabbaka huwa a'lam. We say Allahu a'lam, right? Allah knows more. No matter who thinks they know anything, Allah knows more. And that's established just in these two words. Okay. This is an interesting point. بِمَنْ ضَلَّ عَنْ سَبِيلِهِ وَهُوَ أَعْلَمُ بِمَنِ اهْتَدَى. If you notice a subtle thing here, when it comes to ضَلَّ, he says عَنْ سَبِيلِهِ, right? So when it comes to ضَلَّ, he says who has strayed from his way. But then when it comes to being guided, he doesn't say being guided to his way. Does everybody see that? So it's not بِمَنْ ضَلَّ عَنْ سَبِيلِهِ وَهُوَ أَعْلَمُ بِمَنِ اهْتَدَى إِلَى سَبِيلِهِ. That would mean who is guided to his way. So he mentions his way with the ضَلَّ, but not with the guided. And of course, with the Quran, there's a reason for that. Why is that? So when it comes to ضَلَّ, if you're on a path to something and you stray from that path, regardless of what your next action is, you're lost. That's it. You're not going to get your destination. An easy way to think about this is, say I'm driving to Boston, right? If I'm driving to Boston, I take, for argument, maybe this is wrong, but you take the I-95. At any point, if I stray from I-95, it doesn't matter if I stop my car, it doesn't matter if I go to this road or that road, as long as I stray from I-95, I'm not going to end up in Boston. So all that's required for me to become lost is I stray from I-95. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, وَلِلَّهِ الْمَثَلُ الْأَعْلَى. Allah has the best examples, of course. But He's saying that this path, Allah's path, all it takes for you to be lost is just be off of it. If you go off of it and you follow another path, you're lost. If you go off of it and you just stop, you're lost. If you go off of it and you start going backwards, you're lost. It doesn't matter what you do after. As long as you're off the path, you're lost. بِمَنْ ضَلَّ عَنْ سَبِيلِهِ, right? Regardless of what's happening after, you're going to be lost. So, but when it comes to guidance, He's not saying who is guided to His path. Why? Because if I for example, if I'm going to go to Boston and I leave my house and I go to the I-95 and I'm guided to I-95 and then I just sit there, am I going to actually get to Boston? No. If I just sit there and don't actually follow the road, I'm never going to get to my destination. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is alluding to here. He leaves out the path here because being guided to the path actually isn't what the goal is. Being guided to the path is part of it, but after that you actually need to follow that path. Ihdina sirat al-mustaqim, right? Guide us to the path, but the real translation with that is also guide us along that path. You don't need to be guided just to the path, you need to actually go along it. And once you're along that path, you also have to make sure that you're not stopping, you're not taking another path. So it's a continuous effort. So for dalla, just not being at the path is enough. It only takes one thing and you're off. But for actually ihtada, biman ihtada, to be guided, it takes a lot more than that. You have to get guided to it. You have to be on it. You actually have to take that path. And where that is scary for us, because if we're somebody that's here or wherever and we know all this stuff, we know Quran, we know all this stuff, we know Islam is the truth, but we never actually live by it. We never actually implement it into our own lives. We may be shown the path, but until that path becomes ours, then we're still not in this description, right? So when it comes to getting lost, an sabili, just making one wrong turn, you're off. But when it comes to being guided, it takes a lot more than that. You have to be constantly reevaluating yourself, that am I living the lifestyle? Am I actually implementing all of this into my life? And then finally, the final ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلِلَّهِ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ. Very common statement in the Quran, and to Allah alone belongs whatever is in the heavens and whatever is on the earth, right? This is fairly simple. وَلِلَّهِ, that's a combination of three. Wow. And the lam we spoke about means it indicates possession. So walillahi, and to Allah. Ma, we said, is whatever. Fi is in. As-samawat is the skies. Wa kam min malakin fi samawat, we did last week. Wa ma, from before, it's and whatever. Fi, we also know already. So the only, again, new word is ard, which is earth, right? Walillahi ma fi samawati wa ma fi al-ard. And to Allah belongs whatever is in the heavens and whatever is in the earth. So what is the point of saying this here? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said before that He guides whom He wills. This all belongs to Him. We all belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If something is yours, you can do whatever you want with it, right? If you own a car, you do whatever you want with it. Your car has no say in it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reiterating here that He guides whom He wills, and whoever goes astray, that's something that is done by Allah's permission. At the end of the day, وَلِلَّهِ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ. This is another parenthetical statement, and we kind of covered this. So this is how it would look if you write it out in English. So this would be, surely your Lord knows best who has strayed from His way and who is rightly guided. That would be the idea. And then in parentheses would be وَلِلَّهِ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ. It's a side note, saying that Allah knows who is guided because everything belongs to Him. And then the next part, which we'll cover, لِيَجْزِيَ الَّذِينَ أَسَاءُوا بِمَا عَمِلُوا. So He knows who is rightly guided, so that He may reward the evildoers and reward the people who do good. But in the middle of that, a side note, وَلِلَّهِ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ. And to finish off, لِيَجْزِيَ الَّذِينَ أَسَاءُوا بِمَا عَمِلُوا وَيَجْزِيَ الَّذِينَ أَحْسَنُوا بِالْحُسْنَى. لِيَجْزِيَ الَّذِينَ أَسَاءُوا بِمَا عَمِلُوا. The li here is interesting, and it actually will influence our discussion as well. The li here means, it's called lam sababiyya, which means it indicates the reason for something happening. So it indicates reason. I'm trying to think of an example that we might know. But that's okay, it means reason. So liyajziya would mean so that He rewards. For the consequence is that He rewards. So liyajziya, alladhina, we did, is those who. Asa'u is to do evil, right? It literally means that they did evil, but it means so He can reward those who did evil. Bima, bi and ma would be with what? Amilu is what they did, right? So He can reward the ones that do evil with what they did. Wa yajziya, same word. And He can reward alladhina, those who ahsanu, did good, bil husna. So, and the ones that do good, He will give them the best. Husna means the best, right? Okay. So this is establishing justice. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prefaces this by saying, وَلِلَّهِ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ. How can you be capable of ultimate justice is if you know all the facts. We say this all the time, right? The judge has to know all the facts. Who has more facts than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? He knows every single thing. Because at the end of the day, وَلِلَّهِ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ. He establishes that before. So he's saying in the final judgment, there is no justice that's going to be greater than this, right? The interesting thing here is when it comes to أَسَاءُ بِمَا عَمِلُوا, the ones that do evil, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, what's He going to reward them with? بِمَا عَمِلُوا, what they do. And that's justice, right? You do something wrong, you get exactly that. But the interesting thing is He says, وَيَجْزِيَ الَّذِينَ أَحْسَنُوا. He doesn't say بِمَا عَمِلُوا. He doesn't say the ones that do good, I'm going to give them good for what they did. He says the good doers will get the best. And this is the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? It's not an equal exchange. So if you do evil, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says you get exactly what you deserve. But if you do good, bil husna, He says you get the best. And one of the things that this can mean is in other places in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes people, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of them, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when they make it, He looks at the best of what they did, al-husna. So maybe you did a lot in your life, some of it was okay, but you did one or two things that were really good, they were really sincere, they were accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's really what gets you there, right? On the Day of Judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that He will judge all your deeds by that. Whatever is your best deeds, He will make all your deeds, even the ones that didn't really make it up to par, He will make all of it like that. وَيَجْزِيَ الَّذِينَ أَحْسَنُوا بِالْحُسْنَى. So if you do evil, it's just what you did. If you do good, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will find the thing that really surpassed everything else, and He will judge you for everything based on that. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of them. Everything else becomes upgraded. And the other one is وَيَجْزِيَ الَّذِينَ أَحْسَنُوا بِالْحُسْنَى, is you can accept that interpretation based on other places in the Quran, but also it just means the best and that's it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala once again leaves it completely open-ended, right? The best of anything you can imagine. You just did a little bit of good and He's giving you that. But for the evil, He's giving them exactly what they deserve, which is justice. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of the ones that can do ahsanu and get that reward. So to end today, we'll just go over the ayat that we did. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the end says, فَأَعْرِضْ عَمَّنْ تَوَلَّى عَنْ ذِكْرِنَا. So turn away from those who turn away from our remembrance. وَلَمْ يُرِدْ إِلَّا الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا. And they don't want anything but the life of this world, the lowly life, as we said. ذَلِكَ مَبْلَغُهُ مِنَ الْعِلْمِ. And all this is because this is as far as their knowledge goes. It doesn't go beyond that. إِنَّ رَبَّكَ هُوَ أَعْلَمُ بِمَنْ ضَلَّ عَنْ سَبِيلِهِ. Indeed, your Lord knows better who strayed from the path. وَهُوَ أَعْلَمُ بِمَنِ اهْتَدَى. And He knows better who is guided. And then وَلِلَّهِ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ. We said this is in parentheses. And to Allah belongs everything that is in the heaven and in the earth. لِيَجْزِيَ الَّذِينَ أَسَاءُوا بِمَا عَمِلُوا. So that He can give the ones that did evil exactly for what they did. وَيَجْزِيَ الَّذِينَ أَحْسَنُوا بِالْحُسْنَى. And He can give those that perform good, He can give them the absolute best. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of that latter group. This is all we have today. These are the sources, same 5 that we use every week. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Can we get the I don't know if anybody to change this back to the default or turn it off.